Hi everyone, it's Roger here from the What's on Disney Plus podcast. In this week's episode, we're going to be talking to Mo from the Streamr all about the 6-month anniversary of the launch of Star on Disney Plus. We're going to be talking about the benefits, the negatives. We're talking about some of our favorite shows, some of the stuff that we think they need to do, and some of the other issues with Star. But before we go any further, make sure you have subscribed either on the audio platform or on YouTube. You can also support us through Patreon or YouTube channel members. A big thank you and support goes out to all of our supporters. Sarah, thank you very much for all of your support. We've also got Andrew, Jacob, Caleb, Red Marsman, Aero G, Andrew, Cody, Darren, the Juice, Lauren, and James. Well, a big hello and thank you as well on YouTube to Robert, J Blue, Raphael, My VCR Still Works, Bina, Joshua, Adam, Dawn, Martin, and Jeremy. So there we go. So that's all a big thank you. So let's jump into it now. So Mo, thank you very much for joining us. This one's pretty cool. Yeah. Do you want to give a quick introduction to yourself in case anyone doesn't know who you are?
Yeah, my name's Mo. I run a site called the Streamr or Streamr News, and we cover news and reviews for streaming services based in the US and in the UK. And yeah, so we really kind of got going with the whole Star launch and everything. We were quite excited about that, and Roger kind of very kindly took us on at the start of the launch to have a chat about it, and now we're back 6 months later to give our thoughts on it.
Yes. So now the reason is for this one is we thought with the 6-month thing, it makes sense to bring in another Brit or someone that actually has Star, because James has now got Hulu. I kind of convinced him into getting Hulu so we can talk about some of the show. He was like, I don't know. I go, yeah, but I got this show. I want to talk about it. Goes, all right, I'll get it then. So he's so Star. So what's been your overall impressions over the last 6 months of it as in general?
Yeah, last 6 months of Star, they have been like crazy. I think we were having a chat earlier, and it's just completely changed how we use Disney Plus. Because it's gone from the app that you just want to watch Star Wars on, or Star Wars or Mandalorian or Marvel films. It's gone from that app to something that you can just watch pretty much anything that you want. It's got outside the US and outside Latin America, it's got Family Guy, you've got American Dad. They're also kind of using Star as a means of as sort of a channel, because now that they've closed up the Fox channels in the UK at least, they're airing American Dad there. The new episodes of that, they're in that weekly. Things like Mixed-ish and Grownish and stuff like that are all airing on Star, which I think is just crazy. I think it's so fun. It's such an exciting kind of service to use. I find myself, if I'm bored or something, I'll just stick Disney Plus on and put Family Guy on. Which is,
I mean, I know for myself, just purely personal, Disney Plus went from someone I checked on a Friday to where I would watch the originals, and generally there wouldn't be a lot. The app generally would sit there for days sometimes without being used. Now I use it daily, and I will probably say I use it. It's like that and YouTube. Those are pretty much the only two ways I'm watching content now. Is I'm currently right now I'm binging the Walking Dead. Literally, I've just plowed through 10. I'm just literally just finishing off season 10 right now. A few months ago, I hadn't seen a single episode. I'd only seen one episode, so that's how much I've gone through. Blackish was another show that I went through and binged. There's been a few other bits and pieces that I've gone in, and just now, was it New Girl was another show that I jumped into and got into that one. And there's just so many. There's just now you just fire it up and there's something on there. There's so many originals every week now. We're getting new episodes of, we're probably getting 10 to 15 shows a week now, roughly on average. Sometimes a bit less, a bit more. I think it will start revving back up again when we go into the autumn. But for me, even just watching the new content, it takes days now. I mean, I'll be honest. Some days I'm really grateful to the fact that some of the shows I've been able to watch before the Friday, because I don't know if I'd necessarily have a chance to get them all in on the Friday because there's that many of them. I mean, it started changing now with the Wednesday releases. It's a little bit more all over the place, but for me, Star just changed Disney Plus from the babysitting app to my streaming app. That is just my main source of content. It's incredible.
Exactly that. exactly that. And I think one of the other things I find quite interesting about Star is that we're also seeing, like, I think prospectively they're seeing there's a demand for more mature content on Disney Plus.
Mm,
Maybe not 18 plus, but definitely in the 14 plus, in the
yeah,
14 plus range. And so we're going to start to see the effects of that filtering down into Disney Plus shows, so that shows like Percy Jackson or like other Marvel shows may get a bit darker. And we already saw that a little bit with Falcon,
yeah,
episode 4 of Falcon with the shield.
yeah.
At the end of it, we're already starting to see a little bit more mature and kind of gory stuff on Disney Plus proper. So I think
Mm.
it's really, it is, if nothing else, it's made Disney Plus a real competitor to Netflix and Amazon Prime, and the like
Yeah,
that.
Amazon Prime's always been a bit of an odd one for me because other than the odd show that I'll go in and dip into, like recently Clarkson's Farm, there's not really. I don't really go in there. It's kind of an odd app
Mm.
for me. It is. I think for me, Star is just it's just drastically altered how much we can watch all the new. I mean, and I think we're going to see a lot more, but we're going to go into the future side of things a little bit more. But there's been a lot of stuff over the last few since it's launched of all the originals.
Mm.
Which originals jumped out to you as some of your favorites so far?
Um, favorites that I've aired, favorite originals
Yeah,
that I've aired are Solar Opposites,
yeah.
Love Victor,
Mhm.
and I want to say Big Sky, but I didn't wind up finishing Big Sky. What about you? What
Well,
about you?
Big Sky has actually been one of me and my wife love that show. We would
Yeah.
watch that every week. That became that was like our show that we could watch together.
Hmm.
Because while we watch things like Grey's Anatomy and Station 19 and Good Doctor, sort of Big Sky is that kind of territory. We really enjoy. I wasn't so keen when it flipped off to the farm. It was better when it was just about the truckers. I don't know quite what they were doing with the Star story, with the
Yeah.
farm storyline. But that one was definitely a favorite. I really enjoyed Solar Opposites. I wasn't sure I was, but I really got into it because that was a bit
Mm.
crazy. Love Victor. I enjoyed season 1, but season 2 is just it's so much better because they're now not
I know,
making it for
right?
Disney Plus. Season 2 is so much better.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. I kind of half watched season one, and then season two came, and I was like, this is an amazing show. I need to keep on watching it, because I kind of feel like they were a bit reserved with season one in
Well,
terms
obviously
of
the
what.
first. Well, it was originally going to be a Disney Plus original, wasn't it?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
why, and of course, they knew with the second season they could go a bit more edgy, and they definitely
yeah.
went a bit. And it makes it such a better show.
Hmm.
But Love Victor has really been like one of my. It's actually now like my first pick on a Friday. It was even was
Oh,
beating out but the Bad Batch and stuff lately because it was just like I actually want to know what happens in this more than anything else.
yeah.
I know I can look up spoilers and all the rest of it, but
Mm,
Love Victor's really been one of my favorite ones from recently. Some of the other ones I've been really enjoying. Grownish. I've been watching that every week.
okay.
I know we're a little bit behind, but I've been enjoying. I watched another episode this morning of that one.
Mm,
I did try. I enjoyed Genius Aretha. That was a really solid, well-made show.
okay.
Just a shame they messed up the release schedule for that one. That was all.
Yeah, I wasn't too sure about the Genius. Like, they
Mm,
kind of pitched it really strangely, because it was I think it was pitched as like a Nat Geo show,
yeah,
and then it was, but Nat Geo and Star. So then I thought it was Nat Geo, so I thought it was a docu-series, and I wasn't too into
yeah,
a docu-series, because I'm like, I don't mind
yeah,
docu-series anyway, but
yeah,
like musical docu-series are a bit,
mm,
it's getting a bit too much for me.
yeah.
So I think the marketing of it was a bit odd. But yeah,
Mm.
no, yeah.
Yeah, and also, me and my wife have also been enjoying The Glooming. I think we've got another
Oh,
episode or so of, but me and my wife have been really. That's again. Sometimes we have shows that we watch together, and that was
mm,
because I try. I'll always be like, right, watch the show with me and see what you think, and she'll give her
yeah,
feedback to me, and that kind of influences. Because sometimes it's like, yeah, I'm not watching that again, so that's on me. Or there's sometimes like, okay, we can watch that together. So yeah, The Glooming has been another one that we've actually enjoyed watching together. So again, very different, a different kind of show.
Yeah, completely different vibe to kind of what you'd expect. Because I was saying to my mum about American Horror Stories coming, like when it's going to come to the to Disney Plus, and I was like, I can't wait for American Horror Story to be on Disney Plus. And then she was like, "What? A horror on Disney Plus?" And I was like, "Mum, come on, we've had it for 6 months now. Like we've had Star for 6 months. Like get to it."
Yeah, my wife loves American Horror Story, so she'll be watching it. I've only ever seen it at the end of an episode when I walk in the room, kind of thing. I missed it somehow.
Yeah.
So I'm going to come in. So I'll probably start off with the horror stories first because I don't have to worry about like preconceived anything because it's all like brand new kind of thing. So that's where I'm coming.
Sorry to interrupt there, but that's probably one of the worst things you could do because the first 2 episodes horror stories are a reference. They all take place in the same setting as the first season of Horror Story, so you need to at least watch those 10 episodes because you'll be so confused.
To be honest, even though the trailer was confusing me, just the posters was enough to go, this is not my kind of show. But I said that about Walking Dead, and I fell in love with that show. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun, a lot of different stuff. But there's also been some Dead on Arrival Star originals, which has been a bit of a pain for the summer because basically we ended up with, was it Filthy Rich? Well, I'm just going to bring up the one that we've got here because I did actually put it in. I thought I'd bring up Star so we can actually see what it looks like for those of us, especially in the US, where you can't see it. So we had a couple of new originals, and they do make it kind of quite difficult. So Pride, that was not a problem, but Filthy Rich was definitely dead on arrival because it had been cancelled before we got it. Rebel was cancelled before we got it. Hellstrom was cancelled before we got it. Next was cancelled before we got it. And I think there's a few others as well of just like, just dropping. A Mixed Dish was another one I think they've done. It's just been like unfortunate that like half the originals so far this year, they have been cancelled before we've even got them. Now I understand that they want to put them out there, but trying to get us invested in a weekly show. I know with Rebel, I watched it. I watched the first episode and I was writing up my review, and I think because I got a couple of weeks early, and then they're like, "Oh, we've cancelled it," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, I'm not watching any more of this." I was like, I'll do the opening, I'll do the review, and I'm not wasting any more of my time because it's like if you've cancelled it. I mean, we tried watching Next, we tried watching Hellstrom, and about halfway through the season, I just gave up on both because it was just like. Yeah, well, that's what's the point? It's not going anywhere. It's like, I think that's definitely been a problem with like. So I feel hopefully that's got out the system now, and they've been held back. Yeah,
I think there's still a couple of shows that I feel are definitely going to become, they're going to get cancelled by Fox or whatever. To Star, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of shows that are going to get cancelled by Fox and then get shoved onto Star internationally. There's one called Call Me Cat, which, do you know the British sitcom Miranda? Yeah,
I love Miranda.
I love Miranda, and I watched Call Me Cat, and oh my goodness, it is so bad. So it's definitely going to get it's going to get the can, and it's going to get shoved onto Disney Plus as a Star original. I think they're also doing Bless the Heart at the end of, or like this week maybe.
Yeah, we got the first episode of season 2 today. I think we got the whole of season 1. I mean, why they didn't just drop all of it at once, I don't know.
Yeah. And then obviously there's like American Horror Stories is most likely going to get cancelled. So that being a Star original that's going to be airing weekly is another one that's a bit frustrating.
Yeah, it's a very odd thing with these Dead on Arrival shows, and I do feel like we need to, once we get things moving a little bit, things are going to get a little bit better in terms of the new shows dropping in, getting new stuff that will, they were going to start getting things online. Now, for example, one of the big problems with Star over the last few months has been the whole thing of, getting in line with the US. We've had a few, for example, coming up in August, we've got Vacation Friends, which is a new movie starring John Cena that's coming up. We've also got the TikTok Family Girl show. I can't even remember what they did.
Amelia show.
Yeah, Never heard of them before. I'm too old for that. And then also we had Only Murderers in the Building. Now we're getting them on the same day as Hulu, and we're getting the drops. How it's exactly, but up till now they were trying something different with the like Modoc and with Love Victor, where they were kind of stretching things out afterwards. And I don't, by the sounds of it, it didn't look like it worked. Why we didn't have them on the same day, get them the same, because they would seem to be desperate on keeping us on this like weekly format system, and I don't think it worked.
Yeah, I agree. And like yesterday, we kind of revealed or broke the news or whatever it is, whatever you want to call it, that Only Murders is going to have the same exact release cadence as it is in the US. So that's 3 episodes on day one, and then weekly every week after that, which I think is that's kind of like the ideal situation that you want to be in. It releases the same day everywhere around the world. And at the exact same time. So even if they do, so for Love Victor season 3, which obviously it just got renewed in the last couple of weeks for season 3, if they do, when they want to release that, they either need to make it a weekly release on Hulu or do it all at once on Star.
I just feel like, you know, we need a lot of clarity with how they're releasing the content. And it looks like the Hulu side of things is sort of sorting things out with the Hulu originals, but like the FX Hulu originals, because the FX ones get classed differently. And like, you know, we've had the American Horror Stories, Reservation Dogs is another one of us not getting them on the same time as the US. Now, whether or not that is a contractual thing of maybe FX have got some issue. I know down in Australia, they have some of the stuff still going to the binge because of an existing contract, so that might be an issue. So the FX Hulu originals are a little bit tricky, so I would like them to get that. But then I also look at the fact that they've not been able to sort out the Disney Channel and the National Geographic stuff from last year. I mean, the Disney Channel is still all over the place in terms of its release schedule internationally. I mean, we don't even have the Disney Channel, yet we're being restricted, like, I don't know. It's just this. There
like
seems to be such a weird, just a weird disconnect between how we're getting these episodes, because linear TV in America still seems to dominate what we're all getting, and it's you know, it doesn't make any sense for why we would not get the same episode the same week. I mean, I also just feel like Disney are missing the opportunity not to promote them as like Disney Plus originals or Disney Plus exclusives or whatever they want to brand them. You know, like new episodes of this show or this, you know, or like we got, you know, Spin is a movie that come out last week on the Disney Channel along with the Descendants special. Well, why not put that internationally? You know, it just it makes no sense why they're still clinging on to this network.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it has to do with just how fast they've had to adapt to things, because obviously when Disney Plus launched in March 2020 in the UK, that was the end of March 2020, and they were still confirmed to like launch Hulu sometime this year. And then I think it was something like 6 months later or 4 months later, they were like, no, actually, we're going to do Star. And then within the first year of launching Disney Plus in the UK, they expanded its they expanded it massively. So now that things are sort of calming down and they've got a year of the true service that they want to that they want to offer out, they've got 2 kind of key priorities, and I think the first priority is going to be fixing like making things more streamlined, and the second priority is going to be deciding what approach they want to take globally. So do they want to launch Disney Plus with Star in other regions? Do they want to launch Disney Plus Hotstar in other regions, or do they want to take the Disney Plus and Star Plus approach in some other regions? Because I don't think that I don't think that Star Plus is just going to be reserved for Latin America. That's my thinking.
Well, the only thing I think like with Star, I mean, I hate the concept of Star Plus. I think it's a horrible idea. It should have been they should have got Star like the rest of us, and ESPN Plus should have been the sports stuff, because I know if they tried that here with me, I'd be annoyed because I'm paying for sports that I never watch. So what's the point? I don't watch sports. So why am I paying for the sport? You know, if ESPN Plus comes out, I ain't going to pay for it because I don't watch sports. So therefore, it just seems like they're trying to do it through the back door, and they're almost trying it in Latin America to see if it'll work. The trouble is they can't can't suddenly say to us now, well, we're going to split Disney Plus into half again, and you're going to. It's like they can't do it. It just would cause
No.
too much hassle. I think internationally, I think you're just going to end up seeing Star, the one app launching everywhere. I wouldn't at all be surprised if at some point Hotstar gets merged in with Disney Plus anyway, and they get rid of that app. I think that will be coming at some point. They've already hinted at it a little bit.
Yeah.
I think the Hotstar branding in some of the countries they've launched it in is primarily just due to they're also an existing brand. I still find the whole concept of Star Plus to be backwards, but as a whole, I still believe the Star branding is a mess. It is an absolute mess in terms of how it's working. I mean, like I saw on a poster, like Walking Dead is a Star exclusive. But why? I don't find it such a strange thing with the Star branding.
Yeah, I think that's, funnily enough, that's one of the things I find relatively clear, because an exclusive means that it's aired on a linear
Yeah,
channel in the country,
yeah,
and then that previously it's
yeah,
aired on a linear channel, and then future seasons are only on
yeah,
Star. An original is that it's the totality of it is aired on
yeah,
Star. So I
yeah.
find that like that's consistent, and it's good that they haven't, because the
But it's
concern was with
yeah,
The Walking Dead that they'd turn The Walking Dead into a Star original, and I'm like,
yeah,
no, but at least, because I know that they
mm,
did that with Australia with a lot of things like
yeah,
Family Guy and Grey's Anatomy are now Star exclusives.
yeah.
Um, but yeah,
They definitely seems to have kind of had to shift how they are presenting these shows. I think it was on The Walking Dead was the first time I'd noticed the Star exclusive was like a different. I'm like, hey, I don't think I've seen that. I know in Australia they've had some issues. You know, they were and then they rebranded them and then they didn't. But it's like Grownish probably is for us an original because it never aired anywhere. But it is a tricky one. But for me the whole like Star on Disney Plus, it's just such a strange. I know you. The
yeah,
thing is, I know you say like Marvel's What If and Star Wars: The Bad Batch,
mm,
but you don't generally. And you know, Disney slap Disney this in front of a lot of their stuff, but
mm,
Star doesn't really fit that mold because it's like, well, no, it's 20th century or it's FX or it's a very
yeah.
strange branding.
Yeah, and I actually think that brings us kind of nicely into what I think could be coming next for Star, because you kind of hinted at the idea that they're treating Star like a service within a service.
Yeah,
Um, so they're saying, like, because you don't say What If is coming to Marvel on Disney Plus.
no,
And you don't say The Bad Batch is coming to Star Wars on Disney Plus, or Luca is coming to Pixar on Disney Plus.
yeah,
So they are treating Star as its own separate service. So
yeah. It's a really strange thing. I don't know if I mean. I know with the branding, I mean, like you know, like with like writing articles and videos and stuff, I'm much more aware of where I've got to put the, you know, and you do say like Pixar's Luca or 20.
mm,
I've started using it a lot more to kind of differentiate between the two, but also this thing
bit
of like
better
Star.
SEO.
Well, it's also just like with Star Plus, of just or it's just Star as a whole. Of like I like some Americans are saying, well, you should say Star on Disney Plus because it's separate. Like, yeah, but you don't even. It isn't. It's not set because there was such a issue to begin with Star of people keep saying, well, it's like Hulu. It's like, no, it's nothing like Hulu.
Mm,
It's nothing like Hulu. It's such a, you know, it's built into Disney Plus in the same way that Marvel and National Geographic are built into it. You don't, it's
mm,
just the same way. And I just found that kind of thing of like, well, how do it's, you know, it's been such a weird way of, I mean, obviously we're in a different zone than most people, but
mm,
I mean, it's funny. I mean, I know like with my wife and like with my family, they use the star option much more than anything else, and
mm,
there is much more in there that they're going to. I just find it such a weird branding. Why they didn't go just with the just do the tiered of 20th century FX
mm.
ABC, you know, just use the brands that they already had and just this just generic star. Just I still, you know, it's still such a weird one of trying to work out what they want to do with it.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting to see if, obviously, once their contracts and that expire, so once they've got output deals, still with Sky as far as like the 20th century stuff goes, and a lot of the ABC stuff is still being output by Sky. as
Yeah.
well. So and BBC and FX and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
once those deals expire over the next couple of years, what I'd really like to see, which I think we've discussed before at some point, is having different brands within the star tile. So
Yeah.
you have your 20th century, you have your Searchlight, and then you've got your ABC and stuff like that. Because I know Sky does this as well, because they've got their box set, so they have an ABC
Yeah.
Studios box set,
Yeah.
like an on-demand one, and now obviously Now TV, new now called Now, they've
Yeah.
got that as well with the ABC and the CBS and stuff like that. Um, so it would be so it's not as though those
Yeah.
brands are like totally foreign to people in the
No.
UK or people outside the US rather. So it would be interesting to
Yeah.
see if they incorporate more of that kind of branding into Disney
I
Plus.
also, yeah, I also do find that the whole star section to be very awkward to move around, because there's no
Mhm.
structure once you get in there. I mean, they've got it by
Yeah.
genre or new or whatever, but it's very tricky to kind of, filter
Yeah.
through. Ever since Star launched, like it became much more apparent that the way that you moved around within Disney Plus was much harder. It was much
Yeah.
more. I mean, just browsing through the titles, and it's only going to get worse as it keeps moving forward. And they're definitely going to have to improve it if they ever added Hotstar in there. They just need a much better way of moving around, and that's been my one issue with Star. Of just it's the actual content. There's been some bumps in the road, but generally you can't complain with the content you're getting.
Oh yeah, just the amount of stuff
yeah.
that you get there is
Yeah.
stellar.
It's just that there's little niggles and stuff that they've got to sort out. And like I said, the branding is one issue. There is I'm trying to think of some other issues that I've had other than like shows being dead on arrival. Like navigating. I mean, it's like me this morning trying to find Grownish. Sometimes that's a new episode has dropped, but there's so much else has dropped. It's kind of got pushed off to the side. They've been testing something, but I think we need much more notice of what's new. New episodes or whatever because unless it's not that initial thing when you get in, you don't really know about it. But when they can eventually sort out things like that, I mean, it's only going to get more interesting when they're like, if they decide, for example, to close like National Geographic Channel, or they get all these things happening of getting weekly episodes or drops. We need to see them a bit easier. And I find with Star, it's not always the easiest, and it's not always. I mean, the amount of times I have to say to people, like my friends and family, that they'll ask me, like I'm like the Radio Times of like, what day is that on? I was on Star on this day.
yeah, I get the same question, and it's you get people who they didn't sign up for Disney Plus because it was the kids app.
Yeah,
and you now have to try and convince them, like, no, I swear it's really good. I promise it's good now.
Well, I mean, it's like, I mean, I'm just thinking like with my brother-in-law. Since I was like, I'm gonna be like you're gonna need to get it for Walking Dead, and like, I think you might have watched Star Wars on it, but the idea, you're gonna have to watch it for Walking Dead now. It's like, maybe not their normal show they would have watched it for, but I just as a whole, Star is such an improvement, and it's so I really get this feeling now of when I see what's going on in America with their Disney Plus. I look at the trending every week, and it is like night and day. I mean, I look at like the US version, and it is Disney Channel shows. It's just literally just Disney Channel shows over and over again. And then I look at the UK one, and it's like, all these serious and all these mainstream binge shows, and it's like, wow, there is such a discrepancy between the two because like Disney is still like, I mean, you can see them ramping up for Hulu and Star. The amount of shows that they're announcing and stuff. They're going all in on this. Yeah, but it's like, what's their plan? Where are they going with this? Are they looking at a future where they're going to merge Disney Plus in with Hulu when they've got full control, and that's the ultimate idea? And we've kind of got a preview, or are they going to try and keep them separate? Are they going to introduce ads into Disney? Because I don't believe right now that the way we've got it is going to stay as it is in 3 years' time. I think it's going to continue to evolve. But one app has shown me how. I mean, Bob Chapek has said, churn rates are down, viewing time is up. They are getting so much stats from Star showing that what's happening is working. I think, I mean, the churn rate, I mean, I definitely feel like myself now of, it's like, we said, like when What If ends in October,
Yeah.
You know, but then there'll be like a 6-week gap till. So last year I could totally understand why an adult friend of mine, I play Star Wars gaming with and all the rest of it, why they would unsubscribe when The Mandalorian ended and they didn't come back to Mandalorian season 2. Because I'm like, well,
Yeah.
there's nothing for you. There's literally nothing here for you. Whereas now I can be like, no, you've got Why the Man coming up, you've got Dropout, you're gonna have American Horror Stories, Walking Dead, you've got this show, that show, this show, and like now it feels like you can say that with much more. Oh yes, don't worry about all the Disney Channel stuff.
Like confidence, because I'm looking at the trending now, and we've got first three: Simpsons, Family Guy, Grey's, then The Walking Dead, and then The Walking Dead, Golden Girls as well, which is just like that one. I didn't expect that, actually. I thought it was going to be one of those shows that people make a big make a big deal out of.
Yeah.
And then just don't actually wind up watching. But I was surprised. I quite enjoyed. Well, I watched Golden Girls a couple of months ago, and I was so happy to see it again.
To be honest, I don't think I liked it the first time around when I was a kid, and I was amazed at how much interest there was in it. But it's just I do wonder if the nostalgia goggles might, when everyone's finished binging them all, that might drop off a little bit.
Yeah, but I think that's the point. That's the idea, though, is that Disney Plus and Star are now allowing us to have shows that we couldn't really watch before, like on demand. So shows like Buffy and Angel, I know they're on all 4, but they weren't like, no one really uses all 4 apart from like watching a rerun of Made in Chelsea or something like that. And it's the same with Family Guy. Like, there's never been a place where you can watch all seasons of Family Guy in one place.
I mean, it's like I still find it funny when I look at this, like the Disney Plus app. It's like The Strain. The Strain is such a great series. A friend of mine showed me to watch it, and it is brutal, but it's a great show. But it's like seeing that on here, above Tarzan. It's just like, it's
and you're Finding Dory,
it still feels wrong, like all these months later, of just like this whole thing of here we are with all of this different content here on Star, and it's just changed the app of just like what you've got. And I know, like the other week when I put up about American Horror Stories coming to Disney Plus in the UK in September, and still having comments from people in America going, that shouldn't be on there. It's not safe for kids. Like, we've gone past that now. We've gone way past. We're way past that. That was last year's conversation. Like, I know, but for a lot of people, they still think like that with Disney Plus. But here in the UK, it's kind of moved on. And it was funny because I never really saw the response like we had, where we actually had that. Do you know? It's like, I never really felt like we had that big backlash against Disney Plus here when they introduced. Like I thought there might have been a bit more of a backlash, but there wasn't.
Yeah, I know. I'm seeing that now, but as we get to see more of the Hulu originals, coming through, and the FX originals, because to my knowledge, I don't think we've got any Hulu or FX originals yet. I'm trying to have, we've got MODOK and Solar Opposites.
Yeah.
But as we start to see like the live action ones come through, that's going to be really interesting to see how people respond to that, because those are more. Oh yeah, and Love Victor. So Love Victor is obviously a really, really popular show. So getting more and more of those coming through, that'll be a really interesting thing. Because and I wouldn't be surprised, if they do decide to do like a spin-off of, Grey's and Station 19 and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If they decide to do a streaming spin-off of that, where they can show as much as they want, swear as much as they want, and do all of that, and then that comes through to. I think the
trouble is, to me now, is I especially feel like with 2022, we're just still going to be in this, like maybe even through to 2023, until Comcast has got that stake brought out. Now it might come sooner. It might come sooner than that. Disney might just want to get on with it, and they can sort out what they're doing, because you can see them revving up for the amount of shows that they've announced for merging these shows in, and with the networks and all the rest of it. You can see them revving up for the idea of like, right, Hulu is going to need content. It's going to need original content. It's going to need all these series. We're making loads of shows. We're doing all these ABC stuff arriving. And you can see them revving up. And it's like now you can see why they wanted 20th Century, because they needed it to rev up their streaming networks. When movies start, we've not really seen it yet, but we're like Searchlight and 20th Century, when they start releasing movies, I still think that's one of the big reasons why they've shifted to the Fridays, away from Fridays, is for the movie side, because it does feel like, I mean, even just down to how they're laying out the movie, the release schedule of putting all the TV shows on a Wednesday and the movies are all dropping on a Friday, you can see that, they've got a plan for next year. And or for this winter, where they are pushing the movies. And I think when you start getting, if you're not getting a dozen Searchlight movies a year and 5 or 6 20th Century movies dropping on, I mean, things like Vacation Friends, when that drops on Hulu and Star Plus on Star, that's like the first big release from them on the streaming service.
That's the first. I think it's like the first production, because Hulu has got a habit of acquiring like distribution, like local distribution or domestic distribution for films that like festival darling. So you've got Run, the Anish Chiganti one. You've got that, and then you've got
Palm Springs was one as well. That was one that I watched
Palm
on Amazon over here.
Yeah. So they've got a habit of like acquiring them, and then calling it an original. I don't think they've done any like production originals as far as films go. Which, and obviously now that it's going with Disney Plus and Star, that's just completely like changing things. And if there's a good reception to it, then they're really going to kind of focus in on that over the next year, because movies they're a lot easier to do well than a series.
But also, I mean, if you look at like Searchlight, you had like Nomadland and Summer of Soul, which they did a dual release in some countries. Here in the UK, we got them like a couple of days later with Summer of Soul. But those movies are so cheap for them to buy. They can do day and date and put them there. And I think we'll see much more of this going. And I think they're looking at them going, they're good streaming movies. People aren't going to the cinema to see them, they get a limited cinema run, and they get a and now they with it's like Nomadland. I nearly said No Man's Sky. Nomadland was a movie that I watched on Disney Plus because it was there, and it's like, well, there's all the fuss over the Oscars. I was like, I never would have watched it any other way. It was just the fact that it was there. I thought, I'll give it a go. It definitely wasn't my kind of movie, but I think we are going to see much more of this. And I mean, the Disney Plus side in terms of movies, I mean, we've had 2 this year. We've literally only had, if you just count the actual documentary ones, we've only had, and Premier Access, you've only really had Luca and Flora and Ulysses, and this is effect. The whole impact of like COVID and stuff obviously slowed down production, but I remember saying this way back in the winter, saying, I know everyone's getting ready for productions all getting running and all the rest of it, but they're never going to catch up on that 8 to 9 months that they missed. And now, we've only had 2 movies effectively released on Disney Plus normal, or standard version, or should call it vanilla, really. And it is a bit of a difference. And I think we are going to see, going into the winter, much more movies. But next year, I think we'll see a lot more from 20th Century and Searchlight dropping onto Hulu and Star.
Yeah, I think this is kind of my wild card prediction, but I have no reason for thinking this. But if they do a Simpsons movie, a second Simpsons movie, that's going to be a Disney Plus original rather than a cinema release, because 20th Century is so focused on adult or mature animation now that they will really probably try and focus on, and the Simpsons was obviously such a flagship title for Disney Plus that it just makes sense to do a second Simpsons film.
I mean, they've had so much success on Disney Plus with Simpsons. The only thing is, I feel like with 20th Century's kind of had its hands tied behind its back because of the HBO contract. That's really affected the US. So that's kind of, I think, really like things like Free Guy, that, like I've seen people go, oh, it could be on Premier Access. Well, it can't because of the US system. The US system has totally messed that up. It can't be used.
It could be on Premier Access outside the US
Yeah,
because
yeah,
obviously Premier Access isn't the same everywhere. Like France
no,
just doesn't get it.
yeah,
Yeah, France doesn't get it. The Hotstar regions don't get it. So if they did release Free Guy on Premier Access, it could do really well on
mm,
Star, like outside the US and outside France. Could do really well on there. It just depends on whether or not they've got
mm,
the I want to say like they've got the platform to do it on Star
yeah,
Plus in Latin America. I don't know
yeah.
if they're planning on doing something like that or how the Star Plus app is meant to be like laid out or anything like that.
Mm.
I don't know. Have you had a check of it or
No,
have you been?
I only remember literally some of the footage from like last year's Investors
Yeah.
Day. I just feel like that, the H once. I mean, we've got some existing contracts here in the UK with Sky and Channel 4, but they're nowhere near as messy as they are in the US. I mean,
Mm,
what's been going over there with movies that go to HBO Max and then they come back and then they go off to something Peacock and then they go off to Hulu and then they go off to
mm,
Stars and then they come back. They come back for a week and then they go back off again.
yeah.
It's been a mess in terms of, and I do wonder if that's limited what they could do with like Star and Hulu,
Mm,
because they've got such a limited, these existing contracts have just gotten so tied up. It seems like internationally things were much more simpler. They didn't really bother as much. They like, right,
yeah.
one thing at a time. We can't concentrate on all these countries. Whereas in the US, we got 9 different contracts going at the same time. Pay, all these different pay windows, and I do
Mm,
wonder if when people say like, oh, they should put Star on Disney Plus in the US, and like, well, they do that, they get rid of Hulu, but also the 20th Century Library would be a mess. It'll be an
yeah.
absolute mess for them,
Yeah.
and I think that's a problem.
Yeah, I agree. It's too messy there. And if they did launch Star in the US, like right now, if they launch Star in the US, it would have like 3 shows on it and
Yeah,
2 films,
yeah,
and it would have Deadpool maybe, and
yeah.
that would be it.
I
But
mean, it's just thing is how it is. The only thing that gets me now is it's like, the whole thing of Americans. I do feel like have lost out on having quite possibly the best, such a better experience, a better app, a better content. And it's rare that that normally happens, because usually it tends to always be the other way around. But Disney Plus with Star is just such a better experience, and it
yeah,
does feel like yes, there's that kind of thing of like reminding myself of, and it's for me obviously it's a daily thing, that America is still on that vanilla version that we had last year, and it's like
yeah,
it's such a night and day experience.
yeah. It's completely different the way that if because I've looked at the American site like now, and it feels kind of like half baked. One of the
Yeah,
notes I had for this podcast was that Star, it doesn't feel like it's like they've done like a half-hearted attempt at it. It
yeah,
feels like they committed. They said, okay, we're gonna do adult content on Star, not like adult
yeah,
content, but we're
yeah,
gonna do
yeah,
mature content on Star, and we're gonna do it right. So it does.
yeah,
So there's no bleeps. There's no they don't shy away from nudity or from like the violent side of things or like the graphic side of things. They don't shy away from any of that. Which and
yeah,
that was my concern, was that because they still wanted to uphold this Disney family friendly
yeah,
impression, but I think they've done an excellent job of um of just like committing to this being their app outside the US.
yeah,
They've done like a really solid attempt at it, and it's working.
yeah.
It's paying and
You can
paying.
definitely see where, like you said, the whole concept of the Star brand was about trying to give them a loophole to be like, look, yeah, well, it's not Disney. It is Disney, but it's not Disney. But it's kind of under that brand, and the parental controls and stuff. And I think it was smart for them to introduce more parental controls into the US at the same time Star launched, to get
Hmm.
Americans used to it. Because I think there is a cultural difference as well of like how like internationally Disney's looked at compared to the US, and I think that is an impact that doesn't sometimes get taken into account. Um, but there are
Hmm.
differences in how we look at stuff. But it just for me, I just know that the last 6 months of Star have just generally just been, they just made Disney Plus. It's been a night and day experience. I mean, the last 6-9 months since it's been introduced have just totally changed what how I watched that app completely.
Yeah, it's exact same here. That's my summary review of it. Is it's now the app that I use the most, apart from like some about I think we said like YouTube as well. I use YouTube for theories and Disney Plus to watch the things that I'm watching the theories on.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I have a Netflix subscription, but primarily that's what my wife watches. But I don't really go in there anymore. I've just found now that, you know, there is just so much stuff, and then you get a series that, like I say, when you are binging it, you can kind of get lost. I mean, I literally said to my parents the other day, and they were going, "Where's NCIS? Is it on Disney Plus yet?" It's like, no, try Criminal Minds. That'll keep you going for a while. It's got 25 seasons. You'll be fine.
Yeah, I know. 25 seasons, 5 spin-offs.
Yeah, you got plenty there to go through, but yeah, it's just nice having all this different content. But so that's kind of, I think, going to wrap up our discussion about Star. Like I said, I wanted to, speaking with you today, kind of again, we're coming from it, actually, experiencing it, using it all the time. It's just been, again, such a great thing. But any final thoughts on Star before we head off?
My final thoughts kind of just, where do I think it can go over the next 6 months? I think they're gonna figure out whether or not they want to keep Premiere Access, and for a film like West Side Story, which is a Fox film, or sorry, a 20th Century film, they're gonna shove it on to Premiere Access. The same with, I feel like they're not gonna do it for Free Guy, because it's far too late for that. But they are gonna shorten the window for Free Guy, like drastically, unless there is a Sky deal going on there that I'm not too sure of. Anyway, I think next 6 months they're going to launch Star in more regions as part of Disney Plus. So in future regions that Disney Plus launches in, it'll be Disney Plus with Star included. In most of them, apart from the Hotstar regions, and I feel like there might be some Star Plus. Maybe instead of Hulu, they get rid of the Hulu branding and they launch Star Plus in the US, so that at least their branding is consistent across the board.
Yeah, again, I think until they can buy Comcast, I think that could be the issue. But I don't know. For me, like the next 6 months, I think we're just going to see. What I would like them to do is sort out the distribution of the new shows, the ABC and the FX shows. Get them day and not necessarily. I mean, you might as well do day and date or day and date behind, for like Big Sky and the Wonder Years, and get them on there as quickly as you can. I mean, if we're giving, and this whole excuse of, well, we take everything. Well, Walking Dead's on a Monday and only Murders in the Buildings on a Tuesday, so that whole thing's gone out the window already with those. So, we've already got 4 days a week with new content. So yeah, you can give it to us on any day of the week. Get that sorted. Get them out quicker. Get them out, day in, the day and day after. When they go on Hulu, they put them on to Disney Plus as well. That would be my goal. Would be like a similar release schedule. I think the fact that Hulu's already started to make a shift says to me that they're making some changes. Whether or not, again, it's but there's just a lot of FX shows. Things like Why the Last Man. Well, why have we not had anything about that? I do like the fact now that Hulu, when they do announce stuff now, they do sometimes will state it's coming to Star Pluses or to Star as well. Not on all of them, but on a lot of them, they're starting to do that a little bit more, maybe, which I think is a good. Sometimes it feels like, when they announce something, it's like, well, just, there is the rest of the world that kind of takes this news as well. It's kind of, again, we're just trying to move away from this concept of like, well, if it only affects the United States, that's all it affects. It's like, there's a big world out there with lots of us to watch stuff, and the social media has just made all that smaller. It's it's coming to the UK in 9 months' time. That just doesn't fly anymore. And I think that's what they need. That's what they need to really appeal. But yeah, so that's kind of what I think. But before we finish up,
before we finish off, I just want to ask you 3 Star originals that you're most looking forward to seeing.
Okay, so definitely Why the Last Man. That trailer looked great. I am looking forward to Dope Sick because I like Michael Keaton, and I just thought that trailer that was released recently was like, ooh, I quite like that one. I am gonna say I am looking forward to watching Walking Dead every week, and obviously we're going to have more of them going
Oh.
forward. But excluding that one because it's a Star exclusive. Just trying to think which ones are coming up. There's so many that I'm trying to think of, and I've gone a complete blank. I'm going to say Only Murders in the Building because that one we can't talk about yet, but it's
The
going to be
camera's frozen.
Yeah, it's fine. It's definitely, I think, going to be something for that we'll just kind of going to keep a look at. But nevertheless, we will see you guys in another episode. Mo, where they can find you?
Camera's frozen. Sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, that's okay. Where can they catch you?
Sorry.
Where can they find you?
Oh yeah, sorry. Just thestreamr.com. That's the word the Streamr, STREAMR. No E at the end. It's not the Disney bundle marketing thing.
I bet you had nightmares when that one came along, didn't you?
I mean, you must have seen me like panic tweeting. Just like...
I must admit, I did a few myself because I was like, what is this thing? What is, especially when they started like announcing it in advance of going, what is the Streamr? What is that? What are they doing? And they're going, you know, like, and everyone was running off with the ideas and then going, this could be just a promotion. And then they did that live stream. And I'm just like, from now on, let's just be honest. Whenever they announce something is coming, you've now just got to go, look, remember once they just let us watch a live stream for 4 hours of running water.
Yeah.
So your expectations need to be zero. And then it was hilarious. I mean, I definitely sort of saw the funny side of it once I kind of worked out what they were doing, and I go, okay, they're just trying to grab attention. But I think that was a massive backfire. I mean, the video, like with with Batista and all the rest of it, was great. It's just they let people get hyped up. I mean, I was looking at the live stream and people still were waiting for 4 hours in case the Spider-Man the new Spider-Man trailer dropped. I'm like, well, where did you get that idea to? And it was just the screen
I was crying. I was freaking out because I was like, "This is, come on, no, I don't want to have to change my name again." I was just like, So me and Josh, the other guy that I run the site with, we were like, "What's going on? What's going on? Oh my god, no!" And we had this informer message us and be like, "Is this you?" And I was like, "I don't know what this is."
I must be. I definitely was like, okay, what is this going to be? I don't know what it is, and I need to. And it just turned into the biggest troll from Disney they possibly could have ever done. It was a bit of a funny couple of days. But nevertheless, guys, we'd love to know what you think of The Star on Disney Plus. Love to hear your thoughts, and you can go check us out over at What's on Disney Plus. You can find us on YouTube, you can find us on podcasts, etc. You can find Mo over at the Streamr. And on that goes, thank you very much. See you guys soon. Laters.
Thanks so much.